Ollie, thank you very much for agreeing to partake in these videos. For the benefit of the viewers, please could you tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Ollie Phillips, professional rugby player. I play currently for England Sevens, previously at Gloucester and Stade Francais and Newcastle Falcons before that. And I've played Sevens, well, for England since 2004. So.
Okay. Please can you explain why you've agreed to participate in these videos?
Because for me, of my passion and love for a lot of my career, I've been involved in a Sevens environment, playing for my country, and the sport has now started, or is now starting to grow exponentially. We've got inclusion obviously into the Olympic Games, and it's starting to have a brilliant sort of 4-year plan in terms of a World Cup, a Commonwealth Games, Olympic qualifier, and the Olympics, with sort of a fabulous tournament, which is the HSBC World Sevens Series that sits underneath it all as an annual tournament that all these various nations can compete in.
Okay. Talking about you, for somebody who's been involved in the Sevens sport for quite a while, what are the fundamental changes that you've seen within the sport of Sevens, both as from a player's perspective and also in terms of how the tournaments have changed?
Well, the tournaments have become, as a whole, there's become more of them. So originally when I first started there was 7, now there's 9, that grows to 10 next year. So the likes of Tokyo, that was never really on the map. That's a big one. America, it started to become Vegas as a big tournament over there. And so the major tournaments, the flagship was always Hong Kong, but Dubai has grown from strength to strength. London is now a big tournament. Wellington's a big. So the attendances are a lot different. Before, Hong Kong was the only big one, 60,000 over 3 days. Whereas now we can expect a minimum of 30 at most tournaments. And to be honest with you, nearly every single tournament, bar maybe 2, are packed houses over 45,000 plus. So I think in terms of following, attendances, crowds and so on and so forth, the game's starting to grip the general public. I think from standard, as a player's perspective, when I first started, the big nations were the same as now: New Zealand, Fiji, South Africa, ourselves. They were probably the top 4 or 5. But now what you're seeing are the likes of Kenya, Spain, Portugal, who traditionally would have been walkover games in 04, 05, 06. Now these guys are serious players. So to give you an example, in the European Series 2 years ago, Portugal pipped England and won the European Series. So they're an outfit to be reckoned with. And if you want this year as a case in point, England lost to Spain in the final of the Bowl. So there aren't any easy games anymore. At the time of this video, and we go to Dubai in 4 days' time, we have Portugal, South Africa and Samoa in our group. So there is not a single, and now there isn't an easy game for anyone.
Okay. It's my understanding in the early part of your career, you were primarily employed by Newcastle Falcons as a 15-a-side player. How did that work, and what was it like to be a part of the Sevens squad then?
It's always great to play for your country. You want to do that as much as you can. So for me, there was never any issue. I played for my club, which was a fabulous club, Newcastle Falcons. They brought me through. Rob Andrew initially, then John Fletcher, Steve Bates, all recognised the advantages of Sevens and going away and playing on the World Sevens Series in front of big audiences and hostile environments. They appreciated how it develops your skill sets and everything like that. So I loved it, and if I'm honest with you, it used to galvanise me, rejuvenate me when I came back. Because in the middle of December, I would go away to Dubai, South Africa, 45 degrees heat, come back, a bit of a tan, just before Christmas, and it was great. I love that environment. The environment's changed a bit now. We're full-time professional, and I think that's a great thing for the game, and I think it demonstrates where Sevens has gone, where it's going, and how serious a lot of these countries are now taking it. And England is probably one of the leaders of that at the moment.
Okay. Given your successes in Stade, I understand you were sort of one of the leading try scorers year on year for a couple of years out at Stade. Can I ask, why did you make the decision quite late in your career to actually become a full-time Sevens pro?
Well, because beforehand you couldn't, to be honest. So before that wasn't an option. And for me, there were a few things I wanted to achieve in my career. One of my biggest disappointments in my career was losing a World Cup, exiting in a quarter-final of a World Cup against Samoa in 2009 in Dubai, when we should have won that game and gone on to win the tournament. But and this year for me is a big year. I want to come back into the England side. There's a World Cup at the end of the year in Moscow. I desperately want to play in that. I desperately want to right the wrong of Dubai in '09, and then looking forward to. I've never played in the Commonwealth Games. I was injured for both, so I'd love to go to that in Glasgow, especially after all the euphoria and excitement over the Olympics that we had here. I think it's going to be a great environment to be involved in, and then if my old legs can take me there, then the Olympic Games are a great sporting spectacle going. So
cool. Has your training regime, obviously 15s players have to prepare themselves for quite regular, very physical side of the game. How has your training regime changed from being somebody who had to accommodate 15s as part of their training program to somebody who's more of a specialist, probably high demand in fitness levels, being a sevens player? How has that changed?
I just think you focus more on, as you said, the fitness sides of everything. I wish we didn't have to because it's disgusting, to be honest. But when you're at 15s, I'm not a huge believer in that the two are poles apart necessarily. I think sevens actually brings some unbelievable qualities for 15 aside. And if you look at a lot of the starting 15 side for England at the moment, over half have played sevens for England. So I think it's a fabulous development tool that actually encourages and harbours and fosters young talent that then go on to represent their country. The biggest advantage of being fully pro at sevens is that you get more time with each other. You get to learn each other's tales and play more with each other, and get fitter and feel more disgusting by the day. But the fitness tests are not fun. What seems to happen now is we get fitter and fitter, so the fitness tests get harder and harder. So, but I mean, it's all part and parcel, and I think that's testament to where the game's gone, where the levels are definitely different from when I was in 2009. That everyone is faster, quicker, or I've just got faster and slower, one or the other. But I'm hoping it's the former rather than the latter. But yeah, I think that's what has now afforded us, is that opportunity to train together on a more regular basis.
Okay. It'd be really nice to get your impression of what's happening more on the sort of domestic level in the UK sevens scene. Obviously, we've seen things like the National Seven Series, which was then replaced by the Super Seven Series. What are your feelings in terms of the sort of domestic level? Is there a sort of a natural progression route for players, or is Ben working really hard at really trying to identify the young talent that's coming through? Yeah,
Ben Ryan's doing, I'll be honest, behind the scenes doing an unbelievable job at trying to channel or develop channels on which sevens players can be found, discovered and coached, and then that's part of some of the RFU's initiatives of coaching up to sevens players to go out and coach kids so that more and more people play sevens. At the moment it's all invitational stuff, so for example, I might fancy creating a team. I'll try and pull some sevens players from a few local clubs. They come play for me and we go play in a tournament that somebody's put together for a weekend. The summer series gives it a little bit of structure, which is great, and that's a good route for us to go through, and the more of those that we can have, the better. Eventually what I'd love to see is actually clubs. My local club when I was younger was Hove, but Hove Rugby Club takes it upon themselves to actually have a sevens team, and we play in a sevens summer league that again it runs exactly the same as 15s, but it runs at a sevens environment in the summer. That way I think you'll start getting more and more people playing sevens, enjoying it, because obviously in the summer it's touching wood, occasionally we get 3 weeks of sunshine in the UK, but and as a result more young players can come through and play sevens, and that doesn't necessarily mean they have to be a sevens player. It just means that they're playing rugby and perhaps might not be put off by the fact that when they go and play in November and it's pouring down with rain and their mum and dad drag them along and they're 4 years of age and all they do is roll around the mud and it's freezing cold. That's not a great lasting memory for some kids. Whereas if a kid in the middle of summer is running around playing rugby at 4 years of age and he's playing sevens and running all over the place, that might be a great lasting memory for a child, and he may then take up the sport sevens at a later date, and we have a natural path of progression that we can develop.